Recess. I forgot everything. Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Tammy Meltzer. I'm chair of Manhattan Community Board 1. This is our executive committee meeting. We normally do in August. I'm calling the meeting to order in 6:04. This will be our one meeting for the month. Any discussions we have and resolutions passed will be ratified at the September full board meeting. I hope everybody signed in who can. First things first, I want to welcome Gabby, who is on with us. Gabby is our new public member. She has long experience with the community board. She's currently dismissing kids for part of her responsibilities with Manhattan Youth. If she can unmute, great. If not, she'll let us know when she can so she can say hi. She's now gone through orientation. But it is nice to have somebody join the board who has grown up in the district, works in the district, and seen many of the growth and change over the last 20 some odd years. So welcome to Gabby. She is a public member.
Can you hear me?
Yay, you're
See
here.
me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Hi, Gabby.
And Gabby's going to be sitting in on Youth and Ed as a public member.
Gabby, can you tell us about yourself a little bit?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Tribeca, but it was originally Washington Market, I think the first few years that I was here. So that's kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of how old I am. And I've been working for Manhattan Youth throughout my whole life, starting as a teenager, doing counselor work and assistant director, then a director position, running the summer camp. Starting September, I'll be supervising the site directors for 4 of our elementary school after school programs. And separate from my professional life, my mom, as Tammy mentioned, was on the community board for many years. And we're always, we've all been always invested in Tribeca, Battery Park City, FIDI area. My daughter's going to be at PS 150 next year. She was there for pre-K last year, and she'll be in kindergarten this year. Yep. So we were going to switch schools. My husband is the PE teacher at PS 234. So we were thinking about having her go there. But Nico's awesome. The principal there is amazing, and we love the school. So we're
Awesome.
Welcome,
Well,
Gabby.
everybody, welcome Gabby. We're happy to have you aboard. As
and
you hear, oh, I'll let you go. Sometimes it's a janky connection. All right, let's jump right in.
Hey, has Lucian posted the sign in? Because I'm on my phone. I'm having trouble figuring out where the sign in sheet is right now.
Yep, no problem. I will repost it. It was in chat. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, he just posted it back again. Okay. There you go. All right. So I want to invite and have a conversation. There are two major things that are coming up for Community Board 1 that we have opportunities that we need to get out into the community and talk about spreading the word. The first one is the September 15th ESD LMDC board meeting, which is 5 World Trade Center. So it's their public hearing is September 15th. We have discussed this project long and hard and will be discussing it. We really need people to go to that meeting and speak up. And not only just the residents who live here or the people who work here or the people who visit, anybody who's interested in, for example, fixing diversity in our education system in Lower Manhattan and really looking at infrastructure and things like that need to come and have a discussion and put their thoughts into the general project plan for 5 World Trade Center, because this is the time and this is part of the official process to make that work. It's from 5 to 8 on Thursday the 15th. I know that the Affordability for 5 World Trade Center has put together a proposal that we're going to share with the board a little bit later after this meeting that people should review and look at. You know, we will need it to be presented to land use, I believe, when we meet in September, but it was just put out. It's part of this conversation. And I think it's really important to go down there. You can see as Lucian is going through what the project is talking about and the description, everything, all of this has been shared. And all of this information we now know.
And Tammy, I'm also going to put a link to this document so everyone can download it. I'll put it in the chat. If someone doesn't have it, I'll make sure that you can download it right now. But I also want to just make sure everyone knows that the board has until October 17th to submit our comments for the record. So, you know, there's certainly time in September for us to put together comments if we wish.
Can I say something?
I'm gonna go through the whole thing and then we're gonna go round robin through the room. So yes, just give us a sec. I think everything that Lucian's had up so far has been shown. Can you go ahead a little bit, Lucian? Because all of this we now know. We have heard. Here is the amendment, which is really one of the most important things that we need to talk about. And we will be talking about this and passing a resolution, and then the easement and the $10 and the deed. Okay. Alrighty. So having all the basic information out there, I'm going to look for hands up first. I know.
Tammy, one more thing. We in our letter to ESD and LMDC, we said that we wanted to submit questions for them to answer. And so they said, okay, that's fine. Well, you can send any questions you like. So I also would encourage you all to use this time to generate questions that we can send to ESD.
Okay. Let me go by hands up. Sorry, give me 1 second. We're going to go, I know you asked first, Justine, but we're going to go Susan first, then Justine, and then I'm going to call on Jill whether she likes it or not. Who was here?
Questions. We haven't
Yes.
submitted anything more than our first comments. We haven't submitted, right? So
Correct.
we have, that is where we are. And whoever wants to speak can speak on whether we want 100%, 50%, affordable, whatever. That's number one. Number two, where is the meeting going to be?
Well, there, as far as I know, they have virtual for September 15th as of right now. I don't know if there is an in-person component or not. I have to go back and take a look at the announcement, which I will do while we're asking questions.
Thank you. That's all.
Our meetings, it's going to be something at the end that I ask everybody to think carefully about and send back to me. I would like to start full hybrid in September. We do have the emergency order, which takes us through partway through September. And that's going to be a question that we all as a board should really think of, is when we're starting hybrid. Okay. But Susan, other than that, any other questions?
No, thanks.
You're welcome. Justine, you're next.
Sure. First, the 15th, that is also the night for the Battery Park City Committee and Quality of Life Committee meeting, which is really annoying. What can we do about that? Because many members of both committees would want to testify. And there's stuff that I know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. And I know we're already squeezing 2 committees together.
Yeah, because of the holidays, but the public hearing is from 5 to 8.
Oh, 5, so we could go in early. All right.
That's right.
All right, that's fair. All right, that was one. And then I'm going to reserve my questions to see what Jill says, because I really want to I do want to point out and call upon everybody to look at the modeling that was done by the Coalition for 100% Affordability at 5 World Trade Center, because what were able to put together is showing that it is possible. You just have to take a different picture. But I'm going to let Jill speak to it because she and Mariama are more.
Yep. Remember, we want to push all the questions that we need. So
Yeah, but understanding that process, I know you're going to share it later. It's not self-explanatory, so being able to discuss it maybe before September 15th, so people can understand, at least the board can understand it, is helpful. But I'll let Jill speak to it. When we had, because you were on the call, right? When it was presented, I think it helps to have Jared there to explain a little bit more and give some details and answer some questions. When is land use? Which might be the answer to the question. That
I have to go take a look.
yeah, I have to take a look. But let me stop talking and wasting time and let's push it to Jill and then I'll see if I can find it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jill?
Okay, hi. So there's a couple issues here, and Mariama should chime in as well, as she actually might be more better prepared than I am on this. I need to really closely review this. They're pushing this, through very quickly, and they are being a little disingenuous on some of these issues. We did do modeling. I don't know if Gerard is on the call-in participants, but we had we were funded. There was funding received to do this completely independent study. It had nothing to do with our writing of this study. It was done by Professor Gerard Delane. And they apparently just aren't taking any increase in affordability very seriously. The CEO of Silverstein was just on New York One and sort of made that clear that they're saying that they're taking no subsidies, which isn't true. Mariama, do you remember what their yearly tax break is for the 25%? Could it have been 125 million a year? Something absolutely outrageous. So there was very disingenuous material out there. They've never made their modeling available to us to see how they've come up with their numbers on affordability. However, this study, and we can circulate it before the land use meeting, and if somebody knows what that date is, that would be really good to hear.
It's the 12th, sorry, it's 6 p.m.
It's the 12th. Our modeling is available, and this report makes it very clear that this is doable. And I don't have the list of questions, but I do think we need to slow down this process and have a discussion with them where they review this modeling and we really talk about how we can increase substantially this affordability. Mariama, you might have a better take on it than I do.
No, I agree with you wholly. The what Jill is referring to is she and I and the CEO were all interviewed for this New York One piece, and the slant that the CEO put on it was basically they've done all they can do and they're not taking any subsidies. They haven't taken any subsidies, which we know is disingenuous as a community. I mean, we live here. We know that the World Trade Center has been subsidized. So that's where we are, and that's what we're dealing with.
So here's a question that I think, if I hear the three of you clearly, that needs to be asked. And that is, what reductions, price breaks, or benefits are you getting? Because if the CEO is there saying that they're not getting subsidies, that is one type of a benefit. But if they're getting, like, what kind of tax breaks are you getting? What was the reduction in the, are you paying $10 of ground rent? Excuse me, right? Like, those kinds of questions, I think the financial details of that are very important because, yes, he can clearly say he's not taking subsidies, but he's using the word subsidies as if it's a negative word if it's a word that enables us to have affordable housing in a grand scale and take down 75% luxury to a much, much, much lower number, I'm unsure why that's bad. And then I think that is a question to ask: what is the negative aspersions about subsidies that make it unwelcome by the organization? Lucian, go.
Yeah, I think that just to also ask to clarify, in their discussion in that notice, the discussion of payments in lieu of taxes, they talk about the equivalent of a 421A program being applied, and I think that's what Jill was alluding to with the tax breaks, because if they're providing 25% income restricted housing, then would that qualify them for some sort of equivalent of 421A? But there's a lot more to that. 421A burns off over time, and so we would like to know kind of how closely would their return to full tax liability would be. Is it structured the same? Like year 20 and year 21, they're at this percentage of tax liability. So I would be interested in knowing that as well, just to build on what you're saying, Tammy.
I think that's great. Let's again include that in the list that goes to them. And then it also struck me to ask, since they are claiming they are not taking subsidies, the question I would also want to know is what subsidies were considered and declined and why?
Good question.
And
Good question, because I don't think they ever considered it.
I think you're right.
I think that there's and that is a question that they should be able to answer, is what subsidies would be available furthermore, because they're not neophytes. Justine, your hand is up.
Yeah, went back up again just to ask. I thought that they were being subsidized for the 25% affordable housing, in the sense that the government or somebody was paying for this, whatever the housing is, the difference. So they were being made whole. So that's a subsidy right there. Is that not being counted or discussed? Or it's some benefit they're getting?
So
Their money, right? Am I not getting?
It's not called a subsidy. It's called something else, and that is, so you can legally stand up and say, I'm a community board member. I'm a public servant.
Yeah.
Some people, they mean different things. We all know that's what a community board member is, but that's not necessarily the only type of public servant that there are. You know what I mean? So I think that we need to understand the vernacular that they're using and why they're using it as such.
Have we ever seen the pro forma?
They sent us something, but they sent us estimations. It was not detailed enough, but we have it in presentation they gave. We can certainly ask for that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it makes sense because they're making it sound like they're doing everything out of the largesse of their heart. And when that statement was made, it's like, well, no, you're getting something. I mean, in my mind, it's a subsidy. You're getting paid full freight for everybody. So you're not walking away being harmed in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Other questions in relation to the community space. Thank you very much. I would want to know, currently the community space is entranced over by the loading docks and the garage, and not the nicest of space in terms of entrance. So of course, I'd like to know how the community space, A, could be enlarged. Why not? And B, how it could be put on parity with the entrance to the other spaces and not left as a long, dark hallway over by a loading dock. That is a question. And then obviously when they're looking at the mix of retail, Does the amount of retail availability help determine affordability? If they had more retail, would they be able to provide more affordable housing units?
More retail at the expense of the community space or just in general?
I didn't say the community space,
Yeah, just asking, right? So that's fair. Just asking though.
right? So there are lots of questions like that that need to be asked. We did ask them to consider a different drop-off, pickup, and exit way with their driveway. I don't think any of those details have been worked out, but what I would like to know is whether or not those items are fixed based on their current motions, whether there is any flexibility to change the materiality of the building itself, which was costly in its initial setup, and secondarily, whether or not the base plans as presented to the community board for entrance, exit, and traffic is flexible. Lucian?
Thanks, Tammy. One question that I would recommend, or a series of questions I'd recommend, are about the GPP's override of New York City zoning. While it's understandable that the zoning for that area, if normal New York City residential R10 zoning were to apply, it would be a morass of exemptions and special exemptions to allow for the massing to be as it is. However, there's other components of the New York City zoning resolution that serve important purposes outside of the management of bulk and height. And especially with MIH, one thing that MIH did that was incredibly important was it fixed a lot of the problems in voluntary inclusionary housing, which led to things like the poor door and the substandard allocation of affordable units on different floors closer to the bottom, where MIH requires a much more equitable distribution of affordable units. So how do we prevent all the affordable units only being for one elevator core, for example, and that sort of consolidation? How do we make sure that finishes for affordable units are not substandard or far below the finishes for the other market rate units, things of that sort, which zoning sometimes can address. But since there's it's unclear what sort of rules are going to manage that equity, they should speak to what they'll do to make sure that those outcomes are emulated without zoning.
And how that can be codified.
Sorry.
What mechanism for codification do we have with that? Is that something that goes into the deed, into the lease? I don't want to see an MOU that's less than understanding once it's finally done. All righty. We're starting off with a good list. Does anybody have any other lists or questions to start to put in here?
Hey, Tammy, this is
Yeah.
is the Manny Cancer Center still the community provider?
They are the consultant that has been brought on. Yes.
Okay, so I think we should probably ask if that's going to be open for other nonprofits to apply for, or if that's a done deal. And also, I think Rosa, I remember, did a great job explaining how little the space is. And
Mhm.
obviously ask for more space. But I think it'd be nice to have the nonprofit, if it's the Manny Cancer Center, they have a good reputation, or others, how they actually could fit with what kind of programming in such a small space. And that's why we're advocating for more space, because you can't fit very much in the space they're giving us.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Betty, you're next. And after Betty is Mimi and then Rosa.
Include, as you said, I mean everything, the tax breaks, the subsidy is everything. And the question that I would have is, when do any of them phase out or end? Because now that you're talking about adding, they're talking about permanent affordability. They're not necessarily including that with anything else that's added. But the question is, I think as a community board is, it's important to understand the potential financial sustainability and loss of housing for some of the people over time. So if we can idea, because that's always one of the big issues to the 421As, for instance. You know, if they expire in 20 years and people get outraged with, why are you making me move now? So we need to know about long-term. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Betty. Mimi?
So with the community space, is that going to be open to the public? Calling it a community space makes me think it would be. Will there be accessible bathrooms in this community space? I think
Good
an
question.
important question. And will they have adequate bicycle parking for the number of people that can be in this building?
I believe that will go back towards actually one of those questions that goes with Lucian's question, because I think there's a requirement to build that, but that would be a great question to add there. Yeah.
That's it.
Right, because Mimi,
I'll add it.
accessible two ways, accessible, handicapped accessible, and also accessible to people outside, right?
For everybody. Yeah, I mean, ideally they would also have signage, especially if they're going to hide the community space over by the loading docks, having signs letting people know that there's a bathroom available would be awesome.
On the first floor near the entry.
So
Mhm.
could you move Jill back over?
Yeah, he can definitely move her back over. And Mimi, are you set? You all done? Awesome. So Rosa and then Vicky.
Okay, thank you. If I remember correctly, the main entry that's on the ground floor is actually for the community facility center is actually located on the street to the south and on the southwest corner. The lobby is actually pretty small, and there is elevator access from that point, and there was no bathroom there that I can remember. The second entry, which we had also pushed for, but it was theoretically a prime corner, right? Entry point. That Tammy's correct, adjacent to the loading dock, but because the loading dock is on the west side, and the corner that the entry would have would be on the west and the south side. The secondary entry point is from the elevated park, and with a sort of a bridge that crosses over and connects into the building. And what we had been talking about was having that be more celebratory and more noticeable, so that that could be an alternative entry point that elevates it better than like the loading dock adjacent entry point. And they did seem to like that as an option. And the architects seemed to get excited about sort of exploring how to make that a bigger, better deal. In terms of the square footage, we're still at about 10,000 square feet. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Tammy.
So the questions that need to remain, because remember what was showed were conceptual drawings.
Yes.
Nothing final. So for Lucian, he
Yep.
needs to be able to put on that list, you know, changes.
Bathrooms that are accessible on the
Yeah,
ground
beyond
floor.
the bathrooms, you know, beyond the entrance and the changes, and to make them more hospitable.
Yeah.
He needs to ask about that. He needs to ask about the actual final location and arrival for the entrance for the public space, that it from the street level. Where will it finally be? How will it integrate? How will the signage? All of those things need to be sussed and fleshed out, because what we saw were concepts,
Yes.
nothing final. Okay, so keep in mind when you're talking about the question that Lucian needs to write to make it easier for him, please.
Okay. I'll try. The other thing is that my understanding was with Manny Cantor is that they are theoretically signed. Like it's not open. It's not going to be put out to bid or RFQs or anything like that. It is a done deal. That Manny Cantor is going to be the nonprofit service provider for the community facility space, period. We had a tour of their facilities, which at at the Manny Cantor Center in directly across the street from Seward Park, and I would recommend anybody who's able to go and visit. They have a beautiful space that's probably about 10 times what we're talking about here, and they're bursting at the seams. So they are using that facility for multiple uses at different times, and it's full constantly. And they're doing a terrific job in doing the services that they're providing. But it was really obvious if you're bursting at the seams at 10 times what we're theoretically getting, what are you possibly going to be able to give us in 10,000 square feet? And I just don't, and I feel like I'm sort of beating a dead horse, but I don't think it's realistic for them to provide really great quality services within such a small footprint, especially for the needs of a community which doesn't have that kind of community facility space here now, given that we are also looking at growing the size of our community. And also just given the fact that the reality is that this is going to be the only actual freely accessible public space in the building, right? Everything else you're going to have to pay for, or it's private. So the only community accessible space is this community facility space. So I think that we need to fight really, really hard to make sure that we get the most amount of community facility space, that it is programmed well. And I do believe that Manny Cantor Center is going to be, and Education Alliance are going to do an incredible job. And yes, it would be free and open to the public because that's what Manny Cantor is. There are programs that you pay for. They also have a sliding scale of affordability for the exact same programs that they offer. And yeah, I think, accessible bathrooms. Yes, they do have accessible bathrooms in the existing Manny Cantor Center. And I do believe that they would obviously do the same here. And what was, yeah.
The question is obviously, what kind of programming are you considering? And if you remember, they are going to also partner with Trinity to not duplicate what is now brand new in Trinity, because there was a link with Trinity. So it is, what have you learned from what is happening over at Trinity to augment and where you're going, correct?
I don't remember it being so clear that they were going to not overlap with Trinity, because I thought Trinity facilities were also extremely highly in demand. And that the only reason why the spaces were not completely filled all the time were because they were growing into their facility, in the sense that they were still setting up what programming they wanted to do when, and sort of like learning how to do it as they were doing it. So
yes, and yes, but that doesn't mean that they weren't working with them. They are working.
Okay. So I still think that we need to advocate for as much community facility space as we can have, because that's the only space that's actually going to be open to everybody. Period.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? My pleasure, Rosa. Anything else? Nope. All right. Vicky, you're next. Then Jill and Betty had her hand back up but back down. So Betty, you want to make another run at it after Jill? That's fine. Vicky?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. So, Tammy, I'm sorry. I'm really tired being an architect all day. I just want to add a couple of comments. As an architect doing this kind of project, so we as a board are informed, you don't have to worry. Bicycle quantity, ADA accessibility, bathroom quantity, bathroom accessibility, that is all taken care of through the code. And we can't fight that. We can ask for more or less, because that's like the DC issue, right? Like the federal issue. So please understand, as an architect, I have certain rules. I go to the code, I go to ADA, and we fulfill them. And that also, Rosa, applies to community facility, right? We have, when I get a client like this, I have rules. I go into zoning that describes community facility. I cannot, or I will not be able to give you more than what the code requires unless the owner wants to be more generous. And in this case, they don't want to be. So we have to be careful when we ask, how we ask and what we ask for, right? Now,
Vicky, they are no longer bound by one of the things that Lucian was talking about before is they're not bound by city planning. They're going to be by state because it's under state authority. And so they're getting variances from city planning. So
is that zoning variance and DOB variance, like to the international codes?
There's a zoning override as part of the general project plan. I don't know if DOB, what code they have to, what building code. I believe
The
DOB still
building
applies.
code is, by the way, called the International Building Code. We all apply to the same code. It's just we call it New York City Code. Anyway, I'm just here to like I said, I'm really burnt out from my own NYCHA job. I just wanted to tell you that all this stuff is kind of laid out for me as an architect, and I just do what I'm told based on the minimum, which is what all this code stuff is, unless the owner says, I want to be generous and give you 20,000 more. Otherwise, I have rules, and it just tells you what all of this stuff is. But my main question, Tammy, is that, again, in the architecture community, so when I get a job like this, right, and I've worked on skyscrapers, I have to produce a certain amount of market rate apartments for this project for my client to be financially feasible. So when we as a community ask for affordability and all these variances, are we aware that we're trying to change the kind of essential system that we have set up? So like if you want more affordability, like if I need 400 market rate apartments to make this project $1 billion worth of profit, meaning there's banks. All this stuff depends on bank loans. So if we ask for 400 affordable instead of 100, it doesn't make it feasible. They're not going to do it. So how are we as a board understanding the system that's in place?
So I'm going to let Vicky, Jill Goodkind's going right after you, and she's going to talk about that because
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Because we've been doing affordability modeling, at least that group has, and we've been asking them to come back and forth with different options
Right.
to figure it out.
I'm
So-
just, what I was hoping to do here, which is kind of bring a different perspective so that we are completely informed and don't go in and ask for something that is not realistic. And they go, listen to these people, they don't even understand how this works.
They started that with that, and this is where the coalition has come back. So
Thank you.
my pleasure. Jill, Rosa, Justine, and we have 8 minutes to finish this topic before we move to the next.
Thank you. So quickly, Rosa could not have said it better. My question as to adding a question is in our feasibility study, we easily had 20,000 square feet of community space. In this, in the questions, should we put a number that is of the amount of community space that we want? My sense is yes. They could do it, and they could work on the numbers to come up with that. So I would say to ask for at least 20,000. We know that's doable, if not more. Secondly, regarding affordability, we know what happened. I think it was out in Brooklyn where they were supposedly built an affordable community center, but then the pricing on that was ridiculous. So they did not have it in the contract. So the question is, will the affordable access or free access for the community center be in the contract? It must be, otherwise they do not have to honor that. On another note, and I don't know if we can put this into a question, but there was a recent Harvard study really speaks to opportunity. And one of the things they came up with, or they noticed, is that kids who grow up it's their friends, their neighbors, the kids kids from lower income, when they are in a community such as ours, through our schools, through their neighbors in the building, through, sports, they do much considerably better in life. Is there some question we can put into this about creating more opportunity for by increasing affordability? I don't know if that's more of a request, but if someone can figure out how to put that into a question, I think it's one of the most important things that we as a community want to get out of affordability. It's a more segregated, more integrated community that people rise up, not just rich people take advantage of these benefits.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, Rosa, Justine, and then I think we're good.
Thank you. To answer Jill's question, I would peg it at 100,000 square feet. In terms of the zoning requirement for a minimum or maximum, there is no such thing on this specific site for community facility space, because that was definitely one of my very first questions. So they pegged it at 10,000 and they've left it there, and they pegged it there not based on anything other than the fact that that's financially what they modeled as being acceptable. So that's to answer that. And yeah.
Okay.
That was fast.
Thank you, Rosa. Justine, last comments, take us home.
I'll take you home. So I want to answer what Vicky was saying, or at least try to respond to that, and to sort of to say that that is exactly the purpose of the modeling that the homeowners that the Coalition for 100% Affordability has put together, with starting with a different premise, because you're exactly right. Looking at what the Silverstein plan is, you can't ask them to do and build the glass towers, the and I'm making this part up, the Tiffany lamps or whatever they're putting.
Yes.
You can't do that. So we went back to the beginning, right?
Correct.
And we said, take a different picture. These are the ways you can do it affordably. And this is what you can do to make it 100% affordable. This is where you can look to try to get the money. It's all in the modeling. So again, it's not the only alternative modeling. It is an alternative modeling. But the point of what the coalition did with the grant and then having this done was to show that it is possible. We're not crazy. And we're not like what you said, that we're being so naive. No, we're not. It's possible, but you got to take a different picture. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Justine. Vicky, stop. Wendy has her hand up, and then we need to move
Tammy,
on.
Jesus.
Yeah, we got a resolution.
Fucking August meeting.
We might have a resolution to do on the next one. Trust me, we want to get to it. Wendy.
So one other thing that I was just thinking about with all these questions is that, the Biden recent thing about, whatever we call it now has a different name, but there's going to be a lot of subsidies to put in green infrastructure. Is that something we should be advocating as well? Because I think Vicky's taught us that these towers are just the worst in terms of energy efficiency. Is that appropriate to bring up in this list of questions, or what do you think? Because obviously that's something very different than affordability and community space. Thank you.
Ask it. Absolutely. There's no reason why we wouldn't ask it. Like Vicky said, ask the questions, ask the questions, ask the questions. All right. With that, I'm going to close the questions on this. If you have more questions that you would like to add, please email them to Lucian. They will be added to the list that we need to send by Labor Day to ESD to answer. So we can certainly do a first round of questions next week and then update, but please keep in mind that a deadline. So if you have more questions, certainly send them along. We want to make sure that they get asked. All righty. With that, let's move to the next topic, which is congestion pricing, our favorite current contract. We have a lot of information to share out. There are public hearings at the end of August. They issued an environmental assessment with many options that the public hearing is supposed to be about. And you see scenario on the right here, scenario A to G, that goes there. And if you take a look at some of these things, I mean, I have many questions from here, right? what the objectives are, what doesn't meet, how things work. The mobility board, transportation control board, will choose the alternatives, will make the plans. None of these are set in stone. It could be a little bit of A, a little bit of B. You know, I love one of the ones that was get rid of all the placards and all the agency cars. It doesn't meet the revenue goals, but certainly would achieve all of the congestion issues without the pricing. But, you know, that's certainly one of the things that we had talked about many, many times, right? The alternative would reduce the number of permits to provide, right, in commuting to jobs. And they take a look at it and they say that it would certainly work, but it wouldn't give them the money that they want. There are lots of things I think that need to be asked. We are asking, the problem that we have is that the MTA has not agreed to do any public engagement hearings on the planning and no discussions. It's not open meetings. It's not any of the other requirements. There's no conversations being had in the public realm, period. Which as a community board, we're not really thrilled with. We never have been thrilled with. So other than these looks at, you know, that's the one thing. Yeah, reduce government issued parking permits. Doesn't meet, but it meets all the other objectives. So I want everybody to sort of take a look and synthesize this information. And then my question to the board as a community is, do we want to, and it was discussed on Borough Board as well this morning, do we want to put a resolution forward that would be then presented in January again, demanding and requesting that they do public hearings? And this is the, you know, that there is a public engagement process that does not currently exist with this.
I agree, Tammy.
Excellent. Okay. I see Wendy, anything else to add?
Me too.
I agree too.
All right, let's do hands up for questions, comments, concerns. It really, really, really is important that Betty did an amazing job of putting together a lot of information that we're sharing out with everybody. And you'll get it not only to see here, but we'll send it around, that you share it with as many people as possible. I think it is disingenuous to choose the last week in August, which is the traditionally quietest week in all of New York, that most New Yorkers are not local, to do these kind of public hearings. I mean, all of the planning that they've done for this was announced beyond the community board process. There are no community boards who meet in August. When they made the announcement, we happened to be one of the last full board meetings of the month of July. So almost every board in the Manhattan boards have not had a chance to even look at this or digest this. They're all doing what we're doing, sharing if they see it, and that's kind of the best they can do. And I think that's actually not fair for a permanent solution that'll be with us forever. And nowhere in here, by the way, that I have seen, and unless Betty can tell me I'm wrong, did they take a look at the new realities of what it is. Everything is based on pre-pandemic revenue generators. And from everything the mayor, all the studies and all the findings that have come out is that there's a large amount of corporate America that is not coming back to the same level that they were pre-pandemic. The work from home process is actually real. The rise in City Bike is intense. And these are people who would have potentially been taking the subway or the buses are now on City Bikes. And it doesn't seem in anything that I've read, and I could always be wrong, I haven't seen those two looked at in the revenue projections, in the planning process, none of that. There's an old target number that they're hanging on to, and I haven't seen it modified and adjusted for the new reality post-COVID. So let's see for hands up. I see Paul Goldstein first, Wendy will be second, and Betty, please refute what I've said if you know better after that. Paul?
Okay. I think what's starting to take place pretty evidently is that all types of communities are starting to speak out on this. And whether it be New Jersey and the governor there, or suburbanites, or out of borough people, or even the Upper West Side is demanding special parking permits. So there's all kinds of interest groups coming forward to speak out on behalf of their constituency not being unfairly hurt by this. So I would just say that I think as a community board, that's basically our job, to speak up on behalf of our constituency. So on that regard, and that would, the two things that come to my mind are that if people are trying to use their vehicles and just driving a block or two to access the Brooklyn Bridge or the Holland Tunnel or the West Side Highway or the FDR Drive, roads that are not part of the congestion zone. And if the only purpose is to exit the area, those people should not be given a fee to do that. That seems counterproductive. And the other thing that I think we should also suggest is that I don't know that they have the capability for this, but certainly long-term, they should bill people based on the amount of time that they're driving within the zone. I mean, if you're driving in the zone for hours and hours and hours and hours, and maybe there should be exceptions for taxis and such vehicles, but for other people who are just driving all over the place, yeah, they should pay more than just, as I said earlier, using it for a block or two to get, to run an errand somewhere or do something like that. So those would be my two suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mimi and Justine, and then Justine.
Hey, yeah, I got an email from EasyPass about this earlier this week, and I went to the website that they suggested I go to learn more about the CBD tolling program. And the second sentence on the website, if you go to like mta.info project CBDTP, it says vehicles that enter or remain in Manhattan's CBD would be tolled. Remain really stuck out to me. It feels new. Is that a new thing?
There's a lot of controversy. I asked the borough president's policy person as well as Kavanaugh's policy person to try and help us figure that out, because there is a widespread panic going online that people who live here would be charged daily for living here with their cars. Or if you came in with a car on Monday and you stayed till Friday, you would be charged daily versus being charged in and out. Yeah, there's Lucian, you and I have both talked to them about this. I heard that's not accurate, but honestly, nothing's in stone yet.
I'm not. I mean, I'm still wrapping my head around the way that they're planning on putting in the readers. I have a map up on the screen of the congestion zone. The way it was explained to me, and it may need to be explained again, is the readers will be placed in strategic locations along the highways. The idea is, and at certain entrances, right? The idea is that if you're traveling, let's say you're on the West Side Highway and you go below 60th Street, and then you proceed to go to the tunnel, the Hugh Carey Tunnel. They would see you enter the congestion zone on the highway, and they would see you enter the tunnel, and so they would infer that you have never entered the congestion area because they saw you within a certain amount of time based on how traffic is moving and blah, 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 blah. So there's an algorithm there. If they don't see you again, then they would infer that you have entered the congestion zone. So it's not every single entrance into the zone is gated with these readers, that there is going to be a logical premise that they and you know, they'd use this already, and this is how they calculate, you know, if the West Side Highway is red, yellow, or green on Google Maps, you know, they're reading the Easy Pass readers as they're moving along at strategic locations to see how fast the traffic is moving, right? So the same kind of idea is, if you're in the zone, if you start in the zone and you go someplace else in the zone, then there's no readers who are going to tag you.
Unless
I think there are readers.
there are
'Cause I
readers.
did like an antenna survey for fun once, and there's absolutely readers in Times Square.
There are readers
Okay.
because that's how they get your speeds. But in terms of like official congestion zone readers that are scanning plates, that's how it was explained to me, that they don't, because it's not a small amount of installation. Let me show you the picture again. You know, they're going to fix these to light poles, but these are not going to be at every single entrance. So the Easy Pass readers are different than these. These are what you see at the bridges where they've removed the toll booths completely and they're scanning license plates. But the Easy Pass readers are actually much smaller, right? So that's the difference, as far as I understand.
It does make a difference though, because they're planning on putting one at the Battery Underpass, which is a regular route that you can take to avoid local traffic to get over to obviously South Street. So if you're just gonna try and come from east to west through the underpass versus going the local roads, because that is a way that you can make some speed in Lower Manhattan, that's a problem because you're gonna get tagged twice.
Right, and I guess on the best read of this is, let's say they tag you when you're going through the underpass, but they don't see you again, either going through the tunnel or up the FDR or what have you, depending on what direction you're going. Then they may infer that you're not, you know, you're not moving out of the zone or through the, you know. And of course, I think we're getting back to the original idea here is we need to know, there needs to be input on whether it's more equitable to have, you know, a tag in, tag out fee, so splitting it down the middle, instead of the full fee just entering, because some people may choose to make movements during the night or the off peak, where the fee is lower, as well as all the other considerations that have been brought forth by the board, that there is no planned hearing or opportunity for us to, now that we have a better idea of what is possible per this EAS, there's opportunity to say, well, has this, you know, studied all the environmental potential impacts? Has identified and looked at, you know, the impacts? Well, yes, perhaps. However, now that we know that there's, you know, 6 options of different tolling programs that they may implement, how do we say of all these, if all are held equal, which one is the most preferable? If they're going to make $1 billion a year, no matter what, which is the best? And we don't have the opportunity to do that yet.
Justine.
Oh, I have one more thing.
Go ahead, Matt.
Just real quick.
Mimi,
in regards,
hold on. Mimi, you finish, and then I'm gonna let Colin, who said nothing about anything thus far, go, and then Justine. Sorry, Justine.
okay. In regards to what, I'm not entirely sure, Paul, but it sounded a little bit like you were saying something about like a variable toll according to usage.
Yes.
I think that variable tolling is difficult because you can't budget around it. And if this is going to be super expensive anyway, I just don't think that variable tolling is a good option. So.
But if the other goal is to reduce congestion, if you're not in the zone if you're in the zone for a minute, I mean, you shouldn't pay the same fee. Or else it should just be a flat tax to support the MTA.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a difficult call.
And I
It's
think that puts both of what we're talking about back on the table of we need an opportunity to opine based on those things. And we need an opportunity to ask questions based on the questions that are coming up so far. Okay, Colin is next and then Justine.
Yeah, this is kind of broken record territory for me, and I think I'm generally alone on this, but I still remain disappointed that EVs aren't a part of this equation, that they're not discounted or exempt as a whole. And I guess I'm just stating this for the record. If the community board and the city and the state were truly dedicated to the CLCPA 70 by 30 standard for climate change in the city and the state, we would make EVs a serious part of this. And I would just hope to find some way that this board could actually back that. Final point on this, it's shown and proven in London and Paris that the kind of exemption and discount I'm talking about significantly increase the usage of electric cars or net zero kind of technologies in downtowns in both those areas. Just saying that for the record, I just hope the board can find some way to get that in there.
Actually,
if it's truly committed to climate.
Colin, I mean, we've already said we want it on boats. I can't imagine that we wouldn't want to go down that road here. You know what I mean? And that goes back again to the point of it's not a conversation that you see in their documentation and should be a conversation that's had, and that's something that's important. So yes.
It must be a priority, and I kind of want to make a motion that Alice's committee actually consider something like that and bring it up.
Sounds like a great September agenda item.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all for me.
This is Wendy. I have a question on that thing. Is the other piece of that is having charging stations. So the idea, are we asking for the congested pricing money to help fund charging stations? Because that's what other people say. We don't have the ability to put in the charging stations that are going to need if everyone goes electric.
I know that Betty has a comment for that, so I'm going to recognize Betty and then Justine, because I know there was a conversation about that had to do with electric buses as well. Betty?
Actually, I was going to say something different.
Oh.
I want people to realize that all these statements, whether it's an electric car, whether it's a car from CB1, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're all talking about subsidizing private vehicles. The majority of people in our district do not own a vehicle of any sort. So you're not speaking about the majority interest in our district. And I want to make that very clear for the record as well.
But I think climate change is the majority interest of our district.
You know what, Betty? It could be said that you would do the same thing for EVs that includes corporate transportation for vans that they use electric, for electric cabs or electric, Revel rides. All of those could be
municipal vehicles.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Justine.
Thank you. So yeah, I would agree, Colin. I think it's a really good point. I think that the way to address what Betty is saying is to do exactly what you just said, Tammy. It should be an encouragement to move from gas guzzling and fossil fuel to moving to electric vehicles. We do need more charging stations, obviously, because you need to have that. But the reality here is this, and it goes to what Paul was saying. This has nothing to do with congestion or pollution. It's all about generating revenue. And that's why none of this stuff is being discussed. And I think that we need to, in our resolution, as we're pushing forward for all this, you need to say that, because at the end of the day, it is a tax. And what subsidy are we talking about? To whom is getting, who is getting subsidized by what? This is a tax that doesn't exist, that's being put upon us now, or will be put upon us now. You have the misfortune of living in Lower Manhattan, you will be taxed. And that's people who live, in the $10 million, $20 million apartments, as well as the people in NYCHA housing. And they're going to be taxed on their food. They're going to be taxed on clothing. They're going to be taxed, all the small businesses that are going to be, or any large businesses that are going to be getting deliveries. All of those things, it's all going to be a tax. And it is, they need their $1 billion. What happens when people don't come back? What happens when people move away or get rid of their cars and use City Bike? Okay. What's going to happen is anybody who's able-bodied is not going to be taking advantage or using anything. And the people who are non-able-bodied are going to be the ones who are paying this tax. And I find that infuriating, and I think we need to address that. So I think the EV charging stations are really important, and the EVs are important. And I think what Paul said is important. But part of the premise here that we need to be making clear is if all you care about is your revenue for the MTA, that's a very different picture.
Okay. So on that note, I'm hearing that we are good to do a resolution asking for public hearings and public presentations to hear from the community on not only these options, but the missing things that the community board is advocating for. It's a very simple, straight resolution asking for public engagement, asking for public contact hearings and presentations to community boards, and further really dynamic outreach.
And Tammy, what about having members of the community boards that are involved on the planning commission? What is the 4 people who were picked? And we
Yeah, they've already been picked.
Yeah. Isn't there one more seat?
He if I remember correctly, he already assigned somebody for it, but it's a point of requiring them to do the public hearings and to make sure that they concentrate on speaking to the people who are affected: business, tourism, residents, workers, students, anybody. That's a part of the public engagement process. All right.
So Tammy, are you saying you're not going to mention any of the issues that I raised, such as driving
Yes.
a block or 2 in the district? You just said the only thing you want to say in the resolution is to have hearings.
Because we think there are things missing, such as, but not limited to, and we will include everything that people brought up, including yours, Paul.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't clear on
I
it.
apologize about that. Yep, nope, it's including but not limited to.
Okay, thank you.
And this is, it's our reasoning back for more public engagement. And I think it's an extraordinarily clear judgment on this, that this is, if this really was about climate and this was about reducing emissions, this would be about ways to get cars off the street and trucks off the street, and involving benefits for electric and alternative versus simple straight tolling fees back and forth. I mean, it's kind of clear to us, as we say. All right, Betty, is your hand still up for a reason? Nope.
Yes, it just went up. I was going to say, given that I need to get a lot more explanation before any kind of vote, because it sounded to me that it's going to include things that I consider controversial, such as if people live in the district, they shouldn't be told at all.
But that's the whole point, Betty, of public engagement. We're not saying that we agree with everything, the whole list that people have said. We agree that there's a diversity of opinions, which includes, but is not limited to, and no matter how controversial all of those ideas are, that the ideas should be heard out by the people on the control board.
I am for that, but don't mention any of the ideas, because you're choosing them, and hence you are endorsing indirectly by simply saying there's a diversity of opinion. And if you want to talk about different on the number of the amount of charging, want to talk about general things, that's fine. If you're talking about very specific things, then it would be a no for me. And that's why I want to be clear on what I'm voting on.
Lucian.
I just want to call back that the congestion pricing programs, this is based on statutory design. So, the objectives, the reasoning, the rationale, that's all baked into state law. So that's, they're not deviating as far as I understand it. This is according to what was put forth by the legislature and signed by Governor Cuomo. And so we have to keep ourselves centered on that fact that this is per state law.
But if we don't like it, we can't say so?
Of course you can say something, but I think that what they're doing is exactly what they were told to do by the state.
The state
and
never
by the
told them,
legislators.
the state never told them not to have public hearings.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Well, that's certainly a choice that they're making. That I think we all agree is a poor choice.
The budget bill only says the last 30 days before implementation for public meetings.
It says it has to. It doesn't mean that they don't, that they can't. You
Yeah.
understand what I mean, Betty? There's a has to and there's an opportunity. And there's no reason that we don't advocate for the opportunity.
yeah. We
It's not
definitely,
over. It's not over until the lady sings. You know what I mean?
that makes sense. We have to do it.
Desi has not spoken. Desi, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well and cool. I guess my question is in terms of a public hearing. We're still deciding whether we would have a public hearing, right?
No, what we're asking for is the the control board that they have, the people that they've elected to make the rules, are not planning, nor is the MTA planning on doing any kind of presentations or public hearings on this topic. And so what this resolution would be is asking and demanding, saying, you know, your public hearings you scheduled at the end of August when traditionally most people are not necessarily around. It is the quietest week of all of New York City for both business, stores, everything. And we want public hearings set up by them or presentations to the communities. Period. I mean, this is.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would second that because where my one of my strongest senses of advocacy for is for the Metropolitan College of New York, and school is out of session for most. I happen to teach now, but that's not where the greatest population of students and faculty are at this time of year. And doing something during this time would not give an opportunity for anyone from the college community to be able to chime in. Many, if not most of our students come from the outer boroughs and would have to incur, this congestion pricing, into their budget. And so I definitely think it's something that, the college community and probably surrounding colleges like BMCC would want to chime in on. Many of the students in the CUNY system are on public assistance, and this would have a major impact on people who do not live here and have to travel here, who may have a car. And I think not having the opportunity for that community to chime in, I think is worth amplifying.
Awesome. With that, I'm going to call that a second. And let's take it to a vote. All right. We will get the resolution done based on our conversations this evening, keeping it, as Betty has said, fairly top line, just about engagement, saying that there was a large amount of disagreement and dialogue and missing information based on what we have seen so far. And therefore, more information is needed. And so Lucian, I'm just going to take the vote since I'm here. All right. So if you're in agreement, we'll just call it a yay. So let's call for any no's. Are there any hearing none? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, are there any recusals? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Lucian's hand is up. Ooh, sorry, Lou.
That's a mistake. It's down.
Okay. So it's 7:18. We're going to call the meeting to close in 3 minutes. I want to tell you that we have been having some internal discussions in the office and with elected leadership about potentially, since once all the emergency orders are over, we now know that we as a community board will be going to hybrid meetings. We are checking with the borough president's office if there is a license for Zoom and comparing the new and upcoming WebEx opportunities to see that we can make sure to balance whether you're on a mobile phone or you're on a laptop, however that you're interfacing with us, that it will be as seamless and smooth as possible. We have not heard back from the borough president's office yet, If there's a Zoom license available for us, as everyone remembers, we are linked with them. But we will let you know if that happens by the end of September. If you know somebody who would be fantastic at land use, we're still collecting applications. We've had some good, strong candidates, but not as robust of a turnout as we would have potentially liked. And if you know somebody who's interested but doesn't have a land use background but would like to be a district manager, CB2, and oh gosh, I have to look at my notes. There's another CB also looking for another DM, and no, Lucian, you can't go anywhere. And at Borough Board this morning, there was a lot of discussion about redistricting, where we think that we have a bit of a struggle. Parts of Harlem have been chopped up and added to either Queens or Roosevelt Island, and there's a lot of conversations happening about that. There was, since we met in July, there was a letter and the borough president advocating for more bike lanes along the West Side Highway to get people electric scooters and electric bikes to get them off the Greenway to get a dedicated bike lane for those vehicles on the West Side Highway. Lots of conversation about budget consultation and getting the borough president's office to take notes again instead of pouring the burden back onto the community board. And I think that is it for what I've heard from around the island. Does anybody have any questions?
Tammy, I would recommend maybe reaching out to NYU because they have an urban planning division. So maybe they have an alumni posting board for jobs or something.
I'll hook you up with Lucian. There you go, Rosa. Thanks for the volunteer on that. All righty. Anybody else? All right. It is 7:21. Have an incredible summer. If you are vacationing, thank you for your time while you're away. If you are home, enjoy the city. It's beautiful right now. And I will see everybody in September. Have a great close to your summer.
Good night.
Good night.
Betty.
Good night, everyone.